I love it, man. I love it. I love the fact that you turn this passion that you had as a kid and you were able to now do it when you had a little bit more money and you had a little bit more time on your hands to really cultivate and do what you wanted to do. Um does it bug you out now that people go to you as like this toy guru where it's like if I have an action figure question, I'm going to go to like, the Major Brothers for
Yeah.
this in-depth deep dive thing because I always found you and Brian extremely fascinating in the sense that you were always true to yourselves and you were never we're going to do this because this is cool, and you always knew like the platforms in which you had, and okay, now how can I grow myself as this entity, as I'm this former WWE superstar, but I'm not really on TV, and it's taken a while. I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna use the internet really early on to my advantage, but I'm always
Mm.
gonna do like other things to push the bounds of my creativity upwards and onwards. And like wrestler vlogging wasn't really a thing. You were one of the first to do it.
Right.
Talking about and collecting action figures, you and one of your best friends were doing it before it became the in thing, but then you guys created this vast network because of it, and
Right.
now it's that thing. Do you like what's the next thing for Matt Cardona in terms of keeping his finger on the pulse of something next? Because every time you do it, you have a Midas touch. Is it like this weird foresight, or do you just throw it on the wall and expect it to stick, or are you just being like, I just want to do what I want to do and I'm going to try it, and if it works it works, if it doesn't, hey, it is what it is.
I mean, honestly, like that's the one, because I'm just a very creative person, and I'm very grateful for the things I've accomplished in my life and career, but I'm not someone who likes to just sit still and not progress and move forward. So when I was in WWE and I started the YouTube show, it was because I wanted more, and I knew I needed to push the envelope. And I wasn't the first person on social media. I wasn't the first person with a web show, but I was the first person to do it by himself, to do his own web show, to not have like WWE edit it and write it, and advertise it. And I think I was one of the first people who said, like, okay, like I have this Twitter account at Zack Ryder, and I have me, Matt Cardona. How can I blend those two? And that's what I did with the social media and the YouTube show. Is that, if you were watching Raw, I'm just the guy who loses in 3 minutes if I'm even on. But there was so much more to me, whether it be the Star Wars love or the love of pro wrestling or the figure love or the boy band, whatever it was. And I was just trying to get people who were attracted to one piece of me, and built this, I don't know, that this fan base up out of nothing. It wasn't supposed to happen, right? And to answer your question, I just want to try, and it might not work. I'm not predicting the future. I don't know what's going to be the next big thing. I don't know. So many of the things I try with the Major Wrestling podcast aren't a hit, but I just want the opportunity to try. And I just love, you know, having that control, that creative liberty and that creative freedom.
Well, essentially, they WWE wasn't really even hip to the game of YouTube at its infancy when you were doing the Long Island stories. You know what I mean? Like
No,
you
I
were
mean, their YouTube channel was just like clips of Raw and SmackDown. They had no original content, nothing. So
that's what I'm
my
saying.
my YouTube show was beating everything that they were putting up there every week. I think NXT was airing, believe it or not, just on YouTube, or maybe it was just WWE.com, whatever. And my YouTube show was beating it. It's because they were trying to, drive people to WWE.com. Listen, WWE.com is not cool. It's not cool to go to WWE.com and just watch stuff. It's cool if you're on YouTube, you watch some wrestling, you watch whatever, you know, that's, yeah, I'm not saying I was like, I'm like, oh, I have this great vision, I have this to be this YouTube star. I just wanted to create buzz and get noticed. And it just so happened to be through YouTube.
Well, but YouTube, being a YouTube star wasn't even a thing then either. I mean,
Right, right.
this was to me, and this is looking back at it from the now versus then. you know, what you really were doing was experimental. Is kind of was like how when Real World, like the first 5 seasons of the Real World were on MTV, it was still new and experimental. And you're like,
Right.
well, we're gonna figure this out. But people still watched because you kind of peeled back that fourth wall. Like you broke the fourth wall.
Sure.
You were showing people, hey, I'm going to make fun of myself. I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? It's sometimes it might be self-deprecating. I might come on and make a joke and be like, I lost this week, or my friends are gonna come on and it's gonna be Ziggler clowning me or whatever. But it's always gonna go back around at the heart of it is this is who I am, this is what I do, and I want to show you my art. If we could say that in a non-pretentious term, because everybody says my art now and this is my art and this is my thing, but I think back then what you really were doing was like a performance piece, but you were starting to show like, hey, it's okay to have personality outside of the gimmick, but you were always still true to the gimmick. And
Right.
I remember you would bring in your world, you know, Long Island, your dad, the Big O. So I'm like, this is cool, man, because it's like now you're seeing a completely different side of somebody, like you said, that loses in 3 minutes.
Right. And like you said, the self-deprecating humor, if I'm poking fun at myself for losing all the time, or if I say I'm doing all the jobs, but instead of complaining that I'm losing, you see me as like a plumber or like an underwear model. If I'm saying those things, you can't say, I mean, you can say those things to me, but they're not insulting because I'm already saying them. So what are you going to say? You're not on TV. I know, I just said that. You lose all the time. I know, I just said that. So it's hard to like hate somebody and make fun of somebody who's doing it already to themselves.
So now, like moving forward with these platforms, what's the difference of using them now versus using them then?
I feel like there was a lot more genuine interaction back then. So now, I have whatever, almost 2 million followers on Instagram. If I post something, if most of the comments are like fake, like porn star girls or fake people trying to like scam people out of money, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's such this weird world of like who's real, who's fake, so many bots. And I think, I think people are just so obsessed with that number. Like, oh, he has so and so followers. I don't really think it matters. You know what I'm saying? Because trust me, if 2 million people listen to the major wrestling favorite podcasts every week, I'd be rich. You know what I'm saying? They're not. It's not like how I think back in the day, if you said something, people would actually, if they were following you, they generally were interested in you and they would kind of do what you told them to do. Now it's not like that. Now it's you put something out there, like the percentage of people who are actually doing or watching it, it's like almost nothing.